it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this super cute beach cabana cover-up. This is a very versatile piece. You can wear it around your hips at the beach to cover up a little bit. You can wear it across the shoulder to just make a little bit of a statement. You can kind of wear it around the shoulders and tie it here in the middle to create sort of like a little top. And it's just a really versatile piece. You can see all the ways I've styled it using the link below on the blog. I took some photos of all the different ways you can wear this. So this is a really fun piece. We're making this in cotton, so it's great for warm days. And we're going to be making a very simple granny stripe triangle that will start from the bottom here and work our way up. So this also is very easy to size. You just work more rows if you want it to be wider and taller and so forth. If you want it to be smaller, you just work less rows. And then the ties are just a simple chain that we'll be working some double crochets into. So you can really make these longer or shorter depending on your preferences as well. And we'll talk about that as we go along, how to customize it for sizing. The one I have here pictured, the triangle itself from the bottom point to the top here, so from down here at the bottom straight up to the top of the triangle, is about 17 inches tall. If we measure from the bottom point straight up the side of our triangle to the top, is about 23 inches. The top edge of the triangle itself without the ties, so if we start here and go all the way across to the other part of the triangle itself, is about 37 inches. And then the total length from the end of the tie across the triangle all the way over to the other end of the tie is a total of 79 inches. So you can get a sense of how big this is. So let's get started. We're going to begin by crocheting the triangle first, working from the bottom upward. Later on in the video, we'll learn how to create the tie and add to the tie. It has a very kind of seamless look to it. It kind of blends in with our color scheme. We're going to learn how to switch colors and add the tie, and you'll have this super cute cover up when you're done. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry or yarn needle. A tape measure is super helpful if you're trying to get a certain size of the triangle part or the ties or both. We're going to be using a 5mm H crochet hook. This is my Furls Odyssey in the Peach. If you'd like to get one for yourself, the link is below for that. Okay, let's talk about this beautiful yarn I have here. I picked some really fun colors. This is the Friends Cotton 8-8 by Hobie, and I have 5 different colors here. Let's go through the colors and then we'll talk about the amounts next. So the first color I have here is color 108 called Pistachio. This bright yellow is color 24, and that's the Sunflower. This kind of golden orangey yellow is number 26, and it's called Dark Yellow. And then this kind of like golden rusty color is called number 16 or Whiskey. And then this bright blue is number 90 called Capri Blue. Now the link to this yarn is down below. It comes in tons and tons and tons of colors. If you need to substitute yarn, some cotton dishcloth yarn, lots of different manufacturers make them, but just a good this is a number 3 light on the yarn weight scale, would be perfectly fine for this. And honestly, we're going to be customizing the size for what you need. So the more rows you work will make it both taller and wider. So you just work more or less rows to get the size that you need. So you can adjust the amounts of your yarn. If your yarn is a little thicker or lighter, you just work more or less rows. It's pretty flexible. Okay, let's talk about the yardage. I have 5 balls of this yarn. Each ball is 82 yards long, and I'm using 5 balls of this, so that's a total of 410 yards. Now, like I mentioned before, if you're changing the size, you may use more or less yarn, but I'm using 410 yards for the one shown at the beginning of the video. So you can change up the colors. You can do stripes like I'm doing. You could do all one color. It's completely up to you. So if you need to substitute, again, any dishcloth yarn would be great, but for more specifics, a number 3 light, and this actually recommends a USG crochet hook, but we're going to be using the H crochet hook because I wanted it to have just a tiny bit more drape for us. So let's get started. Okay, before we start crocheting, I like to lay my colors out in the order that I'll be doing them. If you're doing a striped project like I am, if you're doing solid, you don't have to worry about this part. But I laid mine out in this order with the green, the lighter yellow, the darker yellow, the orange, and the blue. You can also, if you're doing stripes and then repeating the sequence, it's also helpful to see them in a circle if they're going to be repeating, okay? So we're going to start with this green color first, and I'm just going to unwrap it. Now, as a side note, Hobie has a little tab that's an easy start tab, and it makes it center pull, which is really helpful. So you can just, if you have a little tab like I do, just give it a little trim. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the first couple of rows together, and then I'm going to show you how to do a color change. So let's zoom way in so you can see what I'm doing here. And then what we're going to do is get started on our starting chain. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up that loop, and tighten. Then what we're going to do is chain 5. So to make a chain, wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so for row 1, what we're going to do is in the 5th chain from the hook, we're going to work 3 double crochets. So this loop here does not count. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's that last chain. So wrap the yarn around the hook to make a double crochet, insert it into that chain, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. So that's 1 double crochet, but we need to make 3. So work a second double crochet, and then a 3rd double crochet. Just like that. Okay, then we're going to chain 1, and then in that same chain work 1 more double crochet. So we have the very beginnings now. So let's move on to row 2. For row 2, what we're going to do is chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn. And then in that first space that we created, so see that first space here, we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 1. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet on that same space. Then chain 1, and then what we'll do is work in this turning chain space. So you have your group of 3 double crochets here, and then see at the end is that turning chain that we created. That creates a space. So in that space, what we're going to do is work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, then work a chain 1, and then work a double crochet, all in that same turning chain space, okay? So row 2 is complete. So it's starting to sort of look like the shape that we're after. Okay, so for row 3, what we want to do, now row 3 is the row you'll repeat over and over and over for the rest of your project. So for row 3, what we want to do is chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn our work. And then in this first space, once again, we're going to work 3 double crochet, then a chain 1, okay? So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, then chain 1. Then what we'll do is hop over to this next chain 1 space that we created in the previous row. And what we'll do is work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1. And then what we'll do is in the, well, I wanted to just say something real quick. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be repeating row 3 over and over and over again. So as your piece grows, there will be more of these in between spaces to do. And we'll do another row together so you can see what I mean. So we did a chain 1. Now we're going to hop over to the turning chain space once again, that space at the end there. And we'll work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then a double crochet in the same space to finish the row, okay? So we're gonna do a color change next, but first, I just wanted to show you, we're starting to get the shape. I like to kind of like straighten things up as I do a couple of rows at a time, but you can start to see we're getting our little triangle shape. So we're gonna change colors next, and then we'll do one more repeat of row 3 together so you can see. As you can see, we're gonna have more, we're gonna start and end each row the same way. But in between, as your piece grows, there will be more in between spaces to work into, okay? So what we want to do is go ahead and cut the yarn. Now, there's many ways to join a new ball of yarn, but if you have a way that works best for you, definitely feel free to do that. I like to just cut it and tie the new color on. So again, we have this little easy start tab, which is so cool. You can just snip that off. So what I'm going to do, if you have a preferred way to join your yarn, please feel free to do that. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop, and fasten off. And then in that same stitch where we left off, what we're going to do is reinsert our hook, hook the new yarn on, bring it through, leaving yourself a little tail that you can weave in later. And we're gonna tie the yarn right on. Okay, so for the rest of our piece, like I said, we're just gonna be repeating row 3 over and over and over again. So if you do need to see it again, you can always back up the video, and YouTube has a slow motion feature too that is helpful if you need to see it slow. Okay, so let's just do one more row. We'll repeat row 3 once again, but with our new color, okay? So once again, for row 3, just to refresh, we're gonna reach in that same stitch where we tied the yarn in, bring up a loop, and we're ready to go, okay? So once again, chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we're just repeating row 3. Turn your work, and then in that first space here, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, and chain 1, okay? Hop over to that next chain 1 space. Again, as we work more and more rows, there'll be more of these spaces to work into. So you'll just do 3 double crochet, chain 1 in every space across until you get to the end. So let's do our first one. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. Next chain 1 space, and in every chain 1 space across, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 1, okay? Same thing we did before, we just have more spaces to work into as we work across. Okay, then at the end, once again, in that turning chain space at the end of the row, what we're gonna do is work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then 1 more double crochet, all in that same turning chain space, okay? So let me just pull my hook out here, and we now have a new color to show. And so for the rest of your piece, you'll want to repeat row 3 over and over and over again, and as you can see now we have 1, 2, 3 of those groups, the spaces to work into for the next row. So it'll keep increasing as we get, but you'll always begin the beginning of the row and the end of the row the same way. So keep going with your colors and repeating the sequence, and you can repeat your, let me just zoom out just a little bit here. You can repeat your stripes however you want. You could do 3 rows of each color, you could do 2 rows, you could do 5 rows, it's totally up to you. So keep going until your wrap is as wide and tall as you want it to be. But save a little bit of yarn because the next step we're going to do is we're going to create the tie part for that. And that's a big long strip of some single crochet stitches. So you want to make sure you save some yarn for that part next. So keep going with your wrap and we'll rejoin in just a minute and learn how to do the tie part of it. Okay, we're just working our last stitch of the triangle part of our project. And now that part is complete. So I just wanted to show you because the colors look so pretty and fun. Now I did 33 rows from the bottom here all the way up to the top. But if you want yours to be smaller or larger, just work as many or as few rows as you like. You can kind of test it by wrapping it around yourself and seeing if it's the fit that you want. So what we want to do, if you want to stick with this color for your tie, you can just stay put. But I'm going to switch colors. The next color of our sequence that comes after the green here is this bright yellow. So we're going to move on to the bright yellow for the tie part. So I'm just going to cut the yarn and fasten off. Okay, because I wanted it to just be a little bit different of a color. Now, grab the next color of your sequence, whatever that may be. We can kind of clear the green out. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie this new color on. So go back into that stitch. And let me just zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Go back into the stitch that you just finished off on. And we're going to hook the new yarn on. Okay, and we're just going to bring it through and tie it on. Okay? So for our ties, we're going to try and do it in one pass. So we're going to work a chain way out this way. We're going to bring it back in with our double crochets, work double crochets across, and then head over to the next tie. If in the meantime we run out of our yellow, we're just going to tie what would the next color would be, which would be this like lighter orange color. So we're just going to tie the new yarn on and then keep going. Okay. So what we want to do is grab your new yarn now and go back into that stitch where you tied on the yarn, bring up a loop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 65. So that will give us a nice long tie, okay? So we're just going to chain 65. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65. So now we have this nice long tie, but it's a little bit flimsy. So what we're going to do now is work back into the chain with some double crochet stitches. So in the fourth chain from our hook, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to work a double crochet stitch. So wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop, 3 loops are on the hook, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. And then what we're going to do is just work a double crochet in each chain across. So work a double crochet in the next chain, double crochet into the next chain, double crochet in the next chain, and so forth, okay? And as you can see, our tie now is getting a little bit wider and a little bit more sturdy. So go ahead and work a double crochet in each of these chains across until we get, now let me just position it so that it makes more sense, until we get back to our triangle, okay? So we're just going to work a double crochet in each chain across, and when we get almost to our triangle, we're going to rejoin, and I'm going to show you how to work your double crochets into that part. So it just looks like this even tie all the way across, okay? So work your double crochets in each chain, and we'll rejoin in just a minute. Okay, we've worked all the way across. We have a nice little tie here. And now I have just 1 chain left of our yellow part here that we're working into. So we're just going to work a double crochet right into that. And now, whoops, now we're going to work into our triangle. So for our triangle, all we need to do is, our only 2 rules about this is to work a stitch, work a double crochet stitch into every stitch and every space that you see, okay? So remember when we did our granny triangle, we did a chain 1 to create a space, and then we worked 3 double crochets. We're going to work a double crochet into each one of those elements, okay? So let me just scoot some of this stuff out of the way. So we have, or the first thing here for our triangle is we have a stitch. So that very first stitch at the beginning, work a double crochet into that, and all these ends we'll take care of later. So work a double crochet into that first stitch. Now we have a space. Work a double crochet into the space. Okay? And now we have a group of those 3 double crochets. So work a double crochet in each of those 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And now we're at a space again. So work a double crochet into that. So you'll work a double crochet into each stitch and space across. And that's it. That's all you have to remember. And you can see how it just kind of flows right into that triangle very nicely. Okay? So let's do a few together, and then we'll kind of depart and work on our own. So now we want to work a double crochet into the next stitch, work a double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and so forth, okay? Now we're at a space, work a double crochet into the space. All right, so just keep doing that all the way across, and we're gonna do that until we get to this other side of this triangle, all the way down at the other end. Now, in the meantime, if I run out of this yellow, we'll rejoin before we get to the end, and I'll show you just kind of how to switch off yarn. It's super easy. But we're gonna work to the end of the triangle, and then we're gonna create a tie that comes out the other side, okay? So just keep working across your triangle into every stitch and space across, and we'll rejoin in just a moment. Okay, coming up to the end of our triangle. Now, we're gonna work a double crochet into this last space, and now we have our turning chain. So go ahead and also work a double crochet in the topmost chain of the turning chain too at the end of your triangle. Okay, now we're gonna work the other tie. It's basically the same thing as we did before. We're gonna do a chain 65 because we want them to be about the same length, okay? So let's come back down here. Now we just have a tiny little bit of yellow, and I wanna make the other tie be a different color. Okay, see, this one's light yellow. Now I could keep going with this. I just have a tiny bit, but it would sort of be two-toned, and this one's solid. So if you want to switch colors like I'm doing, you can cut it at the end here. Just cut the yarn, fasten off. You don't have to do this. It's totally optional. I just wanted my other tie to be a different color. And then grab your other color if you want to, if you want two different color ties. Now insert your hook back into that same stitch. Hook the new yarn on, just like we did back earlier. Now bring the new yarn through and just tie it right on. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into that same stitch, bring up a loop, and once again we'll chain 65. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Okay, then we're just going to do the same thing we did before. So in that fourth chain from our hook, this loop here does not count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Work a double crochet into that fourth chain from the hook. Just like that. And now we're just going to work a double crochet in each chain across. So we're coming back down towards the triangle again, okay? So just work a double crochet in each one of these chains across until we get back to our triangle. Okay, we worked all the way across with our double crochets, and now we're at that very last chain. So work a double crochet in that last chain. And now if you notice, what we have here doesn't really make sense. It almost looks like a stair step. So what we need to do is take our project and flip it. You can get these tails out of the way here. Put your hook back in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into, now let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see. But what we're going to do is slip stitch into the same stitch at that last, see this last double crochet at the end here? How it goes into that stitch? You're going to slip stitch into that stitch. So insert the hook, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And then if we sort of scoot our hook out of the way, you can see since we flipped and slip stitched, it just makes one continuous band now, okay? So our crochet part of our wrap is complete. So what we want to do now is give the yarn a cut, and we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. Okay, now let's look at what we've done. I'm going to zoom way out here so you can see. We have this lovely little triangle. It has a continuous tie that goes this way, goes all the way across, and then it has a tie that goes this way. Now I changed colors, so when I tie it, it'll kind of be two-toned. But I did a second color for mine. Totally up to you if you want to keep going with the same color, that's fine. So the last thing we need to do is just take care of some of our ends, okay? So grab your tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. And the one recommendation I have is when you have projects like this, if you did stripes like me, what you want to do is just make sure when you weave your ends in that you're sticking with the same color for the end, okay? And so what you want to do is give it a little twist, thread your tapestry needle, and you're just going to weave that right in, okay? So here I am with an orange tail. I'm going to weave it into the orange section exclusively. Just go into those stitches. Try to stay in the middle because this is can be reversible. It can really be worn reversibly if you want to. So go in one direction with your tail, come back in the other direction with your tail, just like that. And then you're just going to give it a little snip. Now, if you wove these in as you went along, if you kind of crocheted them in, you'll have a lot less work to do. But I'm going to do them by hand just so I have a little bit more control. And then you'll just repeat for the rest of your ends. So our ties are all woven in, our ends are all woven in for our triangle, and it is complete. So that is how you crochet the beach cabana cover-up. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflex video updates. Thanks again.